is adopted so that Palestine can take its place in the League of Nations. And then finally, right now, the person who is seeing speaking was none other than Mohammed Sheikh El Ghazouani, the chairperson of the African Union and the president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. After that, there will be an announcement of the Bureau of the Assembly of the African Union for the year 2025, and then the handing over of the statement by the outgoing AU chairperson, not AUC, His Excellency Mohammed Ghazouani, of course, the president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Then the acceptance speech by none other than His Excellency João Manuel, who is the President of the Republic of Angola, who is taking over from the President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. And then there will be launch of the African theme, where they clearly stated it will be addressing justice for the African people. That will be the theme for this particular session of the 38th and the whole year of 2025. And then afterwards, there will be a group photo followed by now where the presidents will be retreating ahead of that particular vote that will be taking place in the evening. My guests are still here with me in studio. I do have Ambassador Boaz Mbaya, Mr. Gilbert Kiprono, an economist and governance expert, Dr. Isaac Hassan, a governance expert. Will be trying to dissect what we've just heard from the speakers we were able to hear from who spoke English, and you can even see the AUC attempted to ensure that we got at least the English version of what the leaders were saying in that hall itself. And of course, don't forget, we'll be linking up with our reporters at the end of this, including John Jacob Curia, who is currently attending that particular session in Addis. Let me start with our senior here, Ambassador Boaz Mbaya. Ambassador, you have listened to that particular opening remarks made by all those leaders. What undertones have you gathered so far?
Well, thank you very much. I think we missed most of it. I don't know how you got it, but I missed most of it. My take is that the overriding factor is the election of the AU chairperson, AU Commission chairperson, and nobody wanted to address the elephant in the room. I think they are trying to skirt around it to try and deal with development issues, what the AU itself stands for, and so forth. For the time being, I think today everybody's focus is really on who is going to take over the chairmanship of the AU Commission. And that's the person who is going to be the manager, the person who is going to be given the mandate to try and steer the organization into a direction where it will probably achieve a lot more than it has already done. Now, we've seen the candidates in terms of their posters and so forth, one claiming to be simply a very accomplished diplomat. But you see, that is not an issue for diplomacy alone. It's an issue for managing the agenda of Africa. And it is hopeful that the dynamics, the various dynamics that are at play will result in an election of somebody who will actually push the agenda of the continent further. Diplomacy is fine, yes, but management of public affairs is quite a different issue. So I hope that it is possible that we will get somebody who can actually manage Africa. Thanks.
Gilbert, what have you gathered so far?
I think what I've gathered is, of course, I didn't hear much because of
the language.
that speakers were speaking Arab and French. But I can say that from what I gathered, it's like it's a call for Africa to stand. It's a call for Africa to make the right choice. It's also a call for Africa to look inward and also try to see what is it that they can be able to build on what already exists. I've rightfully gathered something from Guterres that we do have a lot of minerals in Africa. Yes. We have resources in Africa. Yes. What is it that we can do with the resources that we have? Is it that there is need to see out to re-engineer and, of course, get somebody who can be able to ensure that the resources that we have are well utilized? I've had mention of also the over-reliance on foreign aid, and how then can we be able to look at what we can do with the resources that we have. I think, as Ambassador has mentioned, what is very key is the person that is going to take lead in this election will not only look at the diplomatic aspects, but also will look at the way they are going to manage our African resources, take leadership, ensure that the Agenda 2063 that we've thought about and we have thought through as Africans that we need to get into is done to the, to its very logical conclusion in terms of one, look at the population that we have in Africa and look at the huge youthful population. I've also had, one of the speakers mention that it's the potential that we have that we do not lose. We really need to ensure that we don't lose it. One key other aspect that I've also gathered from this is that, and this is now informal, by the fact that most speakers, are able to speak in French and Arab, I don't know whether that will be able to have an impact on the outcome. However, having said that, we are very hopeful that the candidates, of course, the right choices are going to be made, and probably we have our candidate taking lead. One other thing I wanted to mention is this, and I think it's very critical, is that how mature are we as Africans when you talk about the idea of politics? Of course, we know that we still have the other way where we really get a lot of the geopolitical, impact in terms of the decisions that we make in Africa. So here is where now we need to find a way of, and I think the heads of state should actually be able to live to the fact that we ideally as Africans should think African, do everything African. If there is need for any support, then it should be actually us driving, for example, creating an environment, for example, for foreign direct investment, creating an environment where investments can be able to thrive. We are exporting a lot, in terms of raw materials, and it takes me back to what I said. Are we able to add value to our produce in Africa? We have a lot, but it's less that we do less. Poverty is still a key thing that is affecting us in Africa. Are we now going to leverage, and whoever is going to take over is going to leverage on their expertise to be able to alleviate, to try as much as possible to implement the Agenda 2063 so that we are able to reduce the poverty level, because we are still so much dependent, as I mentioned, the foreign aid. We are still so much selling out, and exporting raw materials. How are we going to diversify? And I think that is why there is also a mention of AFCFTA, issues of trade and inter-African trade, which I think should be the focus of whoever is going to get in, so that we get a space where I, as a Kenyan, or we as Kenyans, we can be able to export and get to the other borders without, of course, having the challenges of the trade barriers and, of course, and the other, non-tariff barriers, and, of course, the tariff barriers, which I think should be the focus of whoever is going to take over. So our hope is that the leader who is going to be chosen, because anything can happen. There's a chance for Raila to win. There's a chance for the other candidates to win. But whoever is going to take over, we will be able to accept the outcome. We have no option, but to make the best out of it.
Okay. Daktari, as you also react, there are some various issues that have been raised by the Ethiopian Prime Minister as well as the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in terms of what Gilbert is talking about, boosting of inter-Africa trade, but also the call of ending systemic exploitation of resources. You do know we do have a lot of resources, both renewable and non-renewable, in our various African countries, and of course cooperation between the countries. Should we see, because you see one of the clarion call by Raila Amolo Odinga is to get rid of visas, because we're in an African continent, we don't have to travel from one country to another and then you're asked a visa. So was this a clear indication to what the next AUC chair out of the three candidates, whoever will win, should do?
Yeah, I think Abdaziz, I think a number of speakers have echoed issues of Africa. And from their conversation, you see the problem is with Africa. And the solution remains with Africans. Yes. Because when you look at the speech by the outgoing AU chair, it is evident that the journey that he has taken for 8 years wasn't easy. There was lack of will among member states. And that's why he put it very well. In his speech, he said that the African Union problem is far from over. We are just at the beginning, and we wish whoever I'm handing over the baton to will be supported to roll out the problems of Africa. Purposely, he says he will be available to support his successor so that he understands very well the challenges and all the things that he has gone through. And to the audience, who are actually the owners of the African Union, he told them that we need to continuously encourage each other in order for them to transform the future of African generation, or the future of our generation. So, meaning then, there are obstacles within the system that whoever becomes the chair and comes with any energy to transform the African nation will have a lot of obstacles due to lack of will from the owners of the African Union. Coming to the resources and the need to refocus our energy into Africa than energy focused on receiving end, where African will talk about who will going to help them. The UN will going to help them, donors will going to help them. If you look at in the recent Trump's suspension of foreign aid,
yes,
Africans were crying. These are nations that are having resources, that are able to run their own things, but they have developed what is called dependency syndrome. And therefore, even if they are given everything in this world, they will never see their own. They will still begging for support from outside. So what Guterres was saying is that, guys, stop looking outside.
Yes.
Look inside and make sure that the rich resources you guys have, you can make use of them in a better way than fighting over it. And therefore, all countries in Africa where we know they are rich in resources, minerals, are having conflicts. And the conflicts they are having is not from the locals, indigenous people who are living there. These are either from the regions, from colonialists, or from even other interested parties.
Yes.
And the main purpose is for them not to concentrate on harvesting the natural resources God has given them, but instead wait from others to feed them. For example, Congo. Go to Congo. In Eastern Congo, where people are fighting, you can just barely walk 100 meters without getting gold. Meaning that the whole basement there is gold. What happens? There are individuals with big machineries guarded by foreign entities who collect those resources to make sure that these guys remain beggars and they are destabilized and always moved away from that locality to either neighboring countries as refugees or to extreme ends where there are no mineral resources, and then feed them at that particular time. That is called economic sabotage in terms of giving a freedom of resource utilization by the indigenous people in the country. Yes. And therefore, both the speaker, the UN Secretary General, and the secretary, the outgoing AU secretary, AU Commission secretary,
yes,
have both echoed the challenge is with Africa. So it is time for Africa to rethink and come up with the best modalities that will change their economic well-being. In terms of the hope that the next AU chair will going to bring to Africa in terms of free trade, which has been the basic thing that even the chair, the current outgoing chair, talked about.
Yes.
We have developed he said we have developed the route for African free trade space, but we do not have free movement. And therefore, it is like telling someone, you cross this river, but you don't give him either a boat or you don't build a bridge. Meaning then, how will this particular person going to do? You know, there's a proverb which says that You may want to cross the river.
Yes.
But it depends on how the river will going to handle you in terms of the movement of its water, or even the crocodiles that are harvested in that place, for you to cross that over. So every other time we have someone in place for the regional role, we tie the wings of that particular person. And every 4 years that he completes his term and his reports to the African Union for either the second round bid or for a new person to take over, then the person keeps on talking about the same thing. If you reflect on the previous chair before the current charge, Faki's term, the one he succeeded, he talked about the same thing. If not the same thing that we are seeing, as if he has read the same script. So, meaning then, this African mission that we are talking about all time is itself has a dependency on external resources. Meaning then, external resources will give you their money based on their interest.
Yes.
So if you are subjected to interest, you cannot talk about regional interest. You will do your master's interest.
Yes.
So I do not foresee, if Baba gets this position, that he will going to do magic that his predecessors have failed to do. And therefore, as I earlier said, probably we are just creating employment for one of us. But I don't think if there will be a bigger impact in terms of his role. In any case, this position requires someone who can run from one place to another across Africa to make sure that these issues are settled in every president's mind so that they are able to push. Baba is also tired a bit, I'm sorry to say that, but again, with he's the one who will have made significant change. Why I'm saying he's tired is he can still use his troops to go and make those agendas into other countries and make their points. However, it is much better if Baba goes in person. And how many countries can he fly to in a year? I don't think if he can fly more than 5 because of his age.
How can we be sure?
I mean,
let's see if he gets the opportunity.
Let's see there. But I think we are talking about an imagination where Baba will going to win. We are not still saying probably Baba will be the winner. We are yet to see that.
Yes.
We are yet to analyze that. And that discussion will only be very concrete when we get to the first round of the election. And we know that after the first ballots, the first announcement is made, we actually know who will be the chair at that particular time. Therefore, Africa, you have 3 things. 1, get back to your sense and stop fighting among yourself. Secondly, you have all the resources that you are serving Western countries. Please serve yourself first so that you are satisfied and then you can trade with other people outside. Other than taking your raw materials outside your country and getting it with a higher price, that indeed you will have got it with a very cheaper price if it's not free in your own place to improve your economy. Thirdly, our ego is so high to the extent that we all look for leadership, but we do not want to look at the interest of the people we want to lead. And therefore, Africa, stop here that ego. Let's have a nation that will think can bring changes. The world is changing because why I'm saying, sometimes you speak out of pain because you realize that countries that are not even, when you look at them very well, cannot even reach a fraction of Africa.